Okay, division reports, guys. Everybody get the updates, a couple of pages worth. Any questions about any of that?
I will share, Charles initially wasn't going to be here tonight, but with some scheduling, he's not going to be able to be here tonight, but had an amazing wrestling event at Cruz Rec Center
Oh, awesome.
last Friday. I'm not sure
That's
if
nice.
you put it in here.
What kind of attendance?
He sold, we may have gotten close to 200. I think it was 170.
That's good.
Sold.
That's really
Some
good.
people showed up at the door. But it was.
The Yankee had up there. Professional wrestling. Family fun night. Scheduled to take place, it didn't report on that one.
Okay, yeah, he typed it up for last Friday. But yeah, it was awesome, and if, I'm not sure how many of you have been to a live wrestling match, but it was like the old school, I'll say NWA.
Oh, my God.
Rock and Roll Express, Midnight Express.
There's the Ultimate Warrior there.
Ultimate Warrior. Yeah, and some of the kicks, you may be able to tell that they were, acting, but the slaps across the chest were real.
Oh dear.
It was very good.
Oh dear.
So is he thinking about doing this again, like a regular event because it was so successful?
We are, it's, I want to say this is the second year we've done it, but I think the third attempt, we did it 2 years ago. Maybe did not do it last year, and doing it this year. It's going to be at least an annual thing. According to Charles, the wrestling group wants to come multiple times throughout the year. At this point, just once. But yeah, very successful. And of course, Friday night, sorry if you're trying to read while I'm struggling. Tomorrow night is the Blues Beatles here at the Madison Community Center.
Yeah, I think so very fast. It looks like, I went online a couple of weeks ago and, like first we no tickets left on Carolina Tickets.
Yeah, it's,
Did sell out fast. I went out.
I waited too long on this one.
so,
There's still some left.
yeah, I think, she said we're at 270, 280, something like that.
This Carolina Tickets weeks ago had like, I went on, there were like single seats, just a handful and that was it.
They're kind of in weird places,
Okay.
the ones that are left, and they're at the way back, but
Okay, yeah.
we do, what is that, whole 320,
360.
360? So, I mean, that's about 90 tickets, and we're selling them at the door again.
Thanks.
So,
Yeah.
The algae, still, it's kind of, you said the weather get colder, starting to get warmer again, we never retest that.
Did it ever get cold enough for it to, for a period of time?
Oh, it's Squirrel Lake.
Yeah, we have not had
Yeah.
it retested. But
The point is, if you notice, we're not doing anything anyway, other than telling people not to, not to let their dogs.
Well, I thought the
out.
cold weather would kill it, if it didn't kill it, now it's warm, you gotta do something.
I mean, I read it on the internet, so it has to be true, but it just kind of dies down. It dies down in the winter and then comes back. There's not unless you dredge the pond, there's no way to really get rid of it. That's what I read on a couple of sites, but again, it was on the internet, so it has to be true. So I don't know if you can actually get, without dredging the pond, you can actually get rid of it.
I mean, is it affecting the fish in there too, or not really?
we haven't seen any fish killing. So, but effectively, the treatment of it, one, I guess some of the methods, it spreads it further, I guess, affects the water beyond the blooms. If you treat the bloom, it essentially spreads it throughout the water. So you're right. Right at this point, Mecklenburg County's approach and our approach has been to just keep people out of the water. Likely when we get to April, we'll retest it. And go from
And
there.
they weren't supposed to go in the water anyway, so it's not, we haven't changed
Has there
it.
been a history of people going in the water though?
Probably.
Yeah, we haven't seen, well, I haven't heard of people fishing since we put the signs out and asked people not to fish, but it's hard to say nobody's been out there fishing. Now, I don't think people jump in the water.
On purpose.
Hopefully they don't at all.
They might fall in the water.
Pets go in the water, but I cannot say with certainty that we haven't been fishing. Also coming up, April 4th, the same, you see the email, we have the public art tour that offered everybody an opportunity, would like to go.
Let me ask a question. I have a regular driver's license. I haven't upgraded my driver's license. Do I have to do that before I go? I do, don't I?
Oh, to have
I'm
the
gonna
security?
say,
Yeah.
I
It
thought,
says-
I thought that was October 1. though.
It's October 1.
So you
It said
said-
something about, please bring a government issued ID, which of course is a driver's
Yeah.
license. And then it said you need to bring a backup form of ID just in case, and I don't know what my backup is supposed to be.
Do you have a passport?
I don't have a passport, so,
Birth certificate? You got a birth certificate?
yeah, somewhere, if I can dig it out and find
Probably
it.
has a different last name on it too, though, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think what
I mean,
else.
I don't go any place I have to do that. I'm sitting there thinking, am I going in the CIA headquarters?
And we're talking about, we're visiting public art around Charlotte.
I know.
Yeah, you're fine.
It says something about airport. Well, if they make me sit out, then that's all right, but I'll have my license, and you don't think I need to update it for the special license?
Well, you need to update it anyway, but you don't
I
need to do
know,
it for
but
this.
right now,
And they're
that's what I'm
talking about
saying.
extending it out because a couple of states like New Jersey just started like last month.
Okay.
Something
Yeah.
happened.
It's just one of those things
Extend it out even
Right.
further.
Yeah, I know, I really need to, but I just haven't gotten around to it.
So yeah, April 4th,
Okay.
again, I think we have through yesterday, I think we March 10th, to, if you wanted to go.
It'll be interesting, I think.
Yeah, I'm still planning to go. So we'll see, I'll be there with you. If they kick you out, then they gotta kick me out.
Oh, good, we get kicked out together, that's fine.
I think that's all I have.
I've got two questions for you. One, wasn't Rubber Fest last weekend?
It was.
Do we know anything about, given that we, the tourism money funded, was a large check too? Do we know how it went, what the deal is, or?
I don't, nothing beyond editorial stuff. Went well. I guess good attendance. I haven't spoken directly to the organizers, I think it was the name right now, but I did not, it keeps sneaking up on me. I keep forgetting that that's the weekend, and I want to visit. I still haven't been to one in person.
Do we know attendance, and it'd be interesting to track their attendance over the years and see what's
When
happening.
they report on the fund, do they have to give us an attendance figure?
They do. We asked they send a report within 45 days
Okay.
of the event. So it'll be here hopefully in the next
Okay.
4 to 6 weeks.
Okay. And the other question is, obviously coronavirus is everywhere. What is the town formulating any kind of plan on how they're going to deal with events, or what we're going to do in terms of sanitary? Because obviously it's going to be a big concern for Beach Fest, for example.
Right.
Okay. So right now, we have not taken anything beyond what, say, the county has issued with essentially personal protection, wash your hands. Some degree encouraging people not to, well, at least encouraging staff, I guess don't add to the
Panic.
fear. I was about to say paranoia, but it's not paranoia.
Panic.
Not like, don't come to work with masks.
Don't drink the Kool-Aid.
Things like that. We are increasing the number of opportunities to wash your hands. So,
Something like hand washing stations or something we can add to some of
Yeah,
these
so,
events.
well, if y'all don't know me, I don't know if I've ever introduced myself. I'm a Van Lean's assistant. But, in the office today, we did, go ahead and get more hand washing stations, hand sanitizer stations for Beach Fest. And we are discussing doing it for Food Truck Friday now too. Since that's even sooner than Beach Fest, that's in April, that's in a couple weeks. So we're discussing that. Well,
yeah, I think it is, to some degree, just sharing or tempering expectations as far as attendance. Maybe at least putting it out there in the world, hey, attendance may be down from the event perspective or say budget perspective, wanting to at least share the thought that, hey, you know what, revenue could be down just with possible sponsors not wanting to participate, less or fewer sales. So at least putting it out, saying it out loud that it could be, it could impact the events, but as far as planning, we're moving forward as if it was going to be.
Right, we're gonna, obviously, I assume we're gonna publicize that we will have additional hand washing stations or something, something, yeah, it's a fine line you're walking, because you don't wanna panic them, but you also want to, kind of let them know that, hey, we're dealing with this.
Is there a plan in place for folks to check the restrooms at the parks and stuff to make sure that there's always soap and paper towels or dryer machines working or whatever?
Yeah, our routine maintenance, I think they're out at least twice a week.
Okay.
And then when they're in the busy season, that's even ramped up a little more.
Okay.
We call, he comes twice a week, and then we call them before an event, and they always come the day before the event and restock everything.
And even a Squirrel Lake, when, it's just dropped in, really no events out there.
Yeah.
Normal maintenance or routine.
Right, that's what I was,
Even Friday night with the Blues Beatles, if you have a ticket, you got the email giving the details about the event, but then also the gentle ask, hey, if you're not feeling well,
stay home.
stay home. But we did have one person respond by saying, well, I'm not coming. It's a person, I hate to say elderly, but that's the way she described herself, as elderly, and thinks that looking at what's happened with people.
Wait, that's smart.
Yeah, and she's not coming, and we're gonna issue her and her daughter a refund.
That's good. That's actually good.
Honestly, it's gonna be sort of responding like that, in my opinion. Don't wanna come, or something you prepaid for, we'll certainly issue a refund, and if it's, attendance is lower, we just deal with it, but as far as planning.
Everyone's gonna have the same issue, unfortunately, but. And you're not pitching a lot of our stuff is not being pitched to the senior communities anyway. A lot of events that are geared towards that.
No, not the larger events, not, very targeted. It is more broad, but some of the, say, targeted programs, there are some senior programs happening in Cruise and also some things here. As of right now, nothing has been canceled. But again, we're gonna react to what the participants.
That I was just telling you, Harvey, I have friends that are in Plantation Estates. They're not that much older than I am, but they are at Plantation Estates. Met with them today, and we were supposed to have lunch off campus, and they said they really requested we not. They said they've gone through a whole protocol, and we're going to try to follow what they said. They just said be real cautious because I guess they're terrified about this. They have to go.
How's their food? Pretty good?
Their food's great. I've eaten with them plenty of times. Their food is wonderful. I was taking them out.
So now I guess we'll have to go over there.
I get that demographic should be very favorable.
Yeah, they are. And I'm glad the nursing homes really have sat down with them and gone through a lot of protocols.
All right, guys, the agenda didn't have anything to approve the minutes, so let's go back and take care of that. I just noticed that now. Everybody get a copy of the minutes from last meeting. It was pretty much all about the Stevens Creek sub-area plan.
Right.
Anybody have any corrections or changes? I mean, most of it was public comment, but is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
All in favor? Second on that, excuse me.
Aye.
All in favor? Opposed? Okay, thanks, guys. Corey, you want to go into your report?
Yes. So some project, actually I went to the planning conference first. So we had the annual planning conference last week. Well, we've now done this. Some of the highlights of the topics discussed related to Parks and Recreation were, one was event ideas. So we are excited that there's some energy behind adding to the current list of programs or events. We took this opportunity to just share some ideas, some new, some of the ones that staff has been talking about for a while. One was a potential jazz festival, potential to partner with either the chamber or some other private organizations. Also, downtown, that was the name, downtown dining festival, but essentially the farm to table event that we talked about for a bit. Matthew's Culture Shock. This was one that was a relatively new idea. Not a new idea, but a new potential event to bring to Matthews. And this is, again, there's no real fingerprint to it yet. We don't know what it could look like, but the idea is certainly to bring in food, dance, different material, things from various cultures.
That's a fun idea.
And just have
That is
something,
an idea.
That's similar to what ASC has been doing with their culture blocks.
kind of. So this would be, well, I'll say yeah. So it is looking at different types of dance and music, but I think, I guess this would, be a little more targeted. So we probably put some idea to it, talk to whoever, we need to talk to, and say, we definitely want to make sure that A, B, C, D, E, F, G is represented in this. And we have food from there, we have different types of clothing and dance, and be kind of targeted for that group, and then see what else sort of comes along.
Like a day-long festival type of thing.
Could be a 2-day festival.
See.
It really was just sort of seeing what's stuck to the wall
Mhm.
with this piece of it.
Like the International Festival at UNCC.
Yeah,
You know,
that's nice. I've been there.
Can I make a suggestion? Because you are going to get to some extent in ASC's wheelhouse, and I have strong feelings about ASC. I don't need to express here. But if we were to put some geographic restriction on it, in other words, that everybody should be within so many miles, maybe not Matthews proper, but so many miles, that way we can justify it as more of a local event than a.
Actually, the idea was to partner with ASC
Oh, what's okay? That's
and, use that resource to bring money, and some other ideas to this event.
If we do it,
Don't be surprised if money's involved, if ASC is looking into your pocket, as opposed to vice versa.
so if we do
I've been to some meetings, yeah,
Voices
it's,
there.
yeah. it's
If
gonna
we
be
do
an
it,
interesting deal.
the Purser Halsey Park, would it make sense to try and reach out to maybe incorporate Mint Hill as well, with them being that close?
Yeah.
I do in some, maybe like a southeast Charlotte, southeast Mecklenburg County cultural shock about it. Then that way we get Charlotte, Mint Hill, Matthews, and Mecklenburg County all incorporated in one ASC, so that's 4 budgets to
Yeah.
pull from to make
I
bigger.
like that.
And I guess depending on how big Purser Halsey Park is at the time and how developed it is, it would dictate how big, the event could be.
That was the other part of the conversation about personal hosting part. But, yeah, I do like
Put the
that.
dog park there, and we can.
Exactly.
He's never giving up on his dog.
That dog-
But you gonna get your dog park one way or the other.
Culture shock, bunch of dogs.
Dogs can run on my list of questions for him about the planning games.
Yeah, and I know Stumptown Park gets used a lot. They're just, when I drive, I always go out of my way to try to avoid this area when I'm coming my normal traffic, just because there's always something going on right there, which is great. But from a residential stand, just from a different perspective, a resident has to drive through. And you live right there, right?
Yeah, well, I live right across the street from the
Yeah,
fire
so
station.
you've got to, you understand then, right in front of Stumptown Park, how there's always stuff going on, and the traffic and congestion and the pedestrians, you got to drive.
Oh, I hire a policeman to let me in and out of my driveway.
So, and again, I think it's a great park, but with it being right in the middle of everything, again, I don't think we should not do places to have it there, but just if there's a little consideration to how often it's used.
It'll
And
be
also
interesting
size,
to see.
We're hemmed in on all sides. Purser Halsey is nice because it's got plenty of room and land. I mean, there is an advantage, and parking's probably not going to be any worse at Purser Halsey.
Yeah,
Kelsey Park than it is downtown because, you know, there's still a limited number of parking
But
spots.
you won't have the residential or the rest of the consumers that are shopping and doing whatever.
It's been interesting because when we were Matthews Alive, we've had all these discussions about should Matthews Alive remain downtown and all that kind of stuff. And of course, the bottom line was they decided yes, it should. But I have a feeling that I think we should try some things at Purcell Halsey, but I think we will have less attendance than we would have had in Stumptown. I just do.
Yeah, I mean,
I think we should try it, but I don't think you should expect the attendance you have when it's
yeah,
downtown.
so, to share, I think today, the idea, certainly Beach Fest, Matthews Alive, I mean, those are two events that just have a lot of synergy with downtown, with the businesses, the restaurants. To remove those from downtown, for me, it will be a loss.
Me too.
But now,
Me too.
when we look at dog events,
Especially if there's a dog park.
you
Just saying.
there are some opportunities where
Okay, just saying.
everything has a fit, and a downtown festival is something that it just, granted, you know, it's traffic, you don't know where people park, it's like, you just go ahead and say, I don't know where you're gonna park, find something.
Find
But,
someplace, yeah.
Yeah, it's just too much synergy downtown, especially those here. So another idea was another race of some sort. This was an attempt to create a distance that was a little non-traditional, not 3K, not 5K.
We're using the miles.
We're using the greenway, and you know, somehow just make it a little different. Maybe it's a tune-up for another race that just was made to be a part of. Pottery Festival. Think about food pottery. The thing we have right here in Matthews, and I just mentioned that an additional dog event. Create some competitive aspects to it, somehow switch it up from what we have as far as positively. Dog show. Make it happen.
Go back to the pottery event. It'd be interesting, and maybe they could do it, but part of this, you had some kind of a band, something that periodically took people, if it was pottery were, you know, where it needed to be, actually took them and took them back. So it would just be sort of like a little tour kind of thing.
Gotcha, yeah.
That's like an old Williams first time.
Parking there is absolutely.
Yeah, and I don't want parking, but I mean literally to have a van that would just take them back.
Or a little shuttle bus.
Shuttle bus, yeah,
just
shuttle
to run
bus is
from
better than
Stumptown
that.
To there or something, that would.
Yeah, shuttle bus. That's really the word I'm looking
Because, you know, the folks out there on Fremont are not gonna be real happy if we're, you know, you bring in 30 people driving in, it's gonna overwhelm
for.
it.
Well, you almost can, but the
Yeah.
shuttle bus I think would work.
Yeah, it could. We just conversations within the department. They fit well when they're anchored by some historic structure. So we can't think of a great location for it right now, but as an idea, celebrating pottery, the history of pottery in Matthews, it could be something that takes off.
It's probably similar too, we've got a lot of arts activity going on in considering our size, maybe some kind of like periodic arts tour for a certain number of people. Take them to Newton, you can bring them to some of the facilities here with things going on. Because compared to Mint Hill or Pineville or pretty much even Davidson, there's a heck of a lot more going on. I don't think Matthews than anywhere else outside of Charlotte in the county.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And another idea we sort of talked through was esports. Did you guys all know that, the company that designed Fortnite, they're in Cary. And so we were at the Parks and Recreation, the P&R Directors Conference a couple weeks ago. I'm talking to the director in Cary and some other guys and, some other directors. And, of course, the topic started off as how do we address teams? It's a problem everybody has. But then we started to get into esports and really talking through what Cary does and some other places. It is something that has potential. It did seem weird, and I guess we all shared the same sort of, conversation that they've had with their managers and town board. It says, okay, you're the Parks Department and you're saying you want to just create something to bring people in and sit in front of the screen. it's not really not a perfect match right now. But there is a demographic of youth and adults that simply enjoy gaming.
It's a huge thing right now.
It is, and they're ones that are not first-person athletes. They can play football here, but may not be able to, run and play. Just as an idea, it is a huge gap when you look at the scale of where you want to invest in something like this sport. Everything from dedicated facilities where that's all they do, like in the top right, if there's a space where it's dedicated laptops, monitors and game consoles, to transforming the multi-purpose room in the cruise rec center for a temporary, something. A lot of the consoles that come in briefcases, so we could physically rent, 10 briefcases, flip them up, open them, and it's, you got a pop-up turn.
I mean, how crowded are Game Truck Fridays when you do the, every month? Or, those are pretty, we went a few times and like, we were always in like a 30-minute line.
Yeah, so they were with, one night, he brought the game truck out a couple times, and I'll say it was popular with that, because it was like you had to catch the group. Conversely, when we look at, we brought that, I'm not sure if it's the same company, but we brought a game truck up to Matthews Live. And it wasn't that many people, I think you had to pay to play.
It was $1.
It was $1. So it wasn't a whole lot of money, but it was not as popular as we thought it was gonna be. So it's part of a, just a drop-in type deal. It didn't really work. Well, I'll say it didn't work. We did it 2 years. I don't think we did it last year.
We did it 1 year.
And then that was.
And then, because we needed something to replace we thought the butterflies weren't coming back. So we got a game truck and then butterflies ended up coming back. Long story, but, so we only had it 1 year and it was like, we didn't even make back what we had to pay for the game truck.
But was that because the parents were like, look, we're here to have fun, was it just the
Well, that was,
We're here to be present.
Yes.
that was the common thing that they were saying is you have this at home for free. I'm not paying $1 for you to do this. When we can do it at home for free, then I can pay money for you to ride a ride, which we can't do at home.
So think about it, looking at this as an esports event, it would be targeting those that, hey, I'm competitive, I can beat you and whatever. And we just think it is an opportunity and something that we will certainly reach out to the private sector to participate. You got GameStop and these other places that they know what they're doing.
You got the Matthews, the game store right there, right?
Yeah.
Well, that went away.
Is it gone already?
The games, I thought they were gone from a while ago.
So no, they were in Mint Hill and they moved here, but I've just seen the sign, I haven't really been in.
Yeah, I know there used to be a lot of old board games too.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, yeah. So these are just some ideas, and also, Why Not Wednesdays,
Nice.
temporary skating range.
That'd be cool. We've got space. That would be pretty neat.
And,
The only question would be obviously logistics would be just, when it's not in use, how do you safeguard it? And
it'd be temporary.
Okay.
Did you guys see,
Like when we shut down at night, is what he's saying.
no, it completely go away. We hire, it'd be in the grass, so find a
So like a
grass.
1 day.
It'd be a one-day deal as opposed to like uptown where it's there for a certain period of time.
I'm sorry, you mean, I thought you meant like it was just sit there year round.
No, what I'm saying is, in other words, we put up a temporary, let's say we decide to do it, we put it up, Percival Halsey Park. That's great while the day is going on, but what happens, the issue then is what do you
Sun goes
do?
down.
We have security.
Yeah.
We got Amanda out there, she's.
That would be really nice because otherwise you go uptown. I think that would.
Put it in the town circle there. There's nothing but grass there anyway.
Just like the events, the synergy would be around here. Maybe we approach a shopping center. It's somewhere where, I think, like it was in Indian Trail, it was in the Sun Valley.
Yeah, where
Theater
the
shop.
movie theater is, yeah.
It's somewhere in the downtown. core.
Somewhere where it's a lot of
Because
movement
people
already.
also wander off and eat and drink and do other things too. So it makes sense.
Yeah, so we sort of talked through these ideas, and wasn't an ask for anything right at this point, but just simply sharing and I guess looking for feedback.
I like Taste of Matthews too.
And so I think back to.
I like Taste of Charlotte, so I think that sounds neat.
So who remembers the Taste of Matthews? It used to happen, it happened every spring.
I don't-
The Matthews Chamber did it.
Oh,
It was at CPCC. I think they moved it to.
I do remember that. I've gone to that before. At CPCC.
I love that.
I did too.
And it
I like
went
it.
away.
It's
What
always-
was it, just Matthew's Restaurants?
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Matthews restaurants, all of them set up temporary, they
I
had a
remember
table.
that.
And all of them had their little promo info, 4 hours or so, like on a
Uh-huh.
Friday.
It was Friday.
It was awesome.
It was.
Their house special sample kind of.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's the same
You
kind of
pay
thing,
a
you buy the chips and you
Yeah,
get, yeah.
something like
You
that.
buy like chips.
It
It was
Yeah.
fun. I had a good
Yeah.
time.
Restaurant,
But that just, I remember going one time and then it, like it went away or something.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I like that.
So, I mean, that would be probably worth the
We've
chance.
got a lot of restaurants, even if you
Our restaurants
get about
are
the
a lot.
downtown core, there's a lot more around town.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are
That's a great
restaurants that
idea.
love that.
Yeah, so we sort of talked to that. Now, that sounds like 100, or at least 97% Matthews Chamber.
Yeah. mhm.
So it'd be, conversations with that group.
I mean, you could do it here, and then that way you kind of would combine it.
Really good.
With another, with the ice rink.
Actually, let's not get that one. We also talked about, so we shared, hold on. There we go. So continue to think about, this is not it, I'm sorry. Man, that's all I'm doing right now.
The one from this morning,
Yeah.
it was in an email.
All right, well, we looked at Stumptown Park. And what it could look like, well, we took another look at it. Actually, I will share this. So, last year, 2 years ago, I'll say, everybody that was on the committee last year, you said this. So we had a couple of, oh, this is it. All right, so this is an updated view of what Stumptown Park could look like. We did say decide on orientation for the stage at the northwest corner, thinking about the way the sun rises and sets. Largely, park would remain very passive, a lot of open green spaces, seating, dining, movable seating. Here's a placeholder, say, for the temporary ice rink. And then, like I said, just sitting in some open lawn, playground. If you recall the version from last year, there was some additional parking placed here. We did remove the parking with the thought of, your downtown park ideally would not have on-site, or I guess parking within the site. Maximize the park as much as possible.
Yeah.
Use the on-street parking, and again, the philosophy of, I don't know where they park. They park
Don't figure it out.
and walk to the park. Park and walk to the park. This illustration also, shows how back of stage would be on Fremont, being able to hide all the what do you call it, hiding the guts, what happens during the event behind the stage. Still continuing what we do with Food Truck Fridays, allowing the trucks to line up here on these concrete walkways. This version does have a maintenance building, housing anything needed to maintain the park, or most things that would be needed to maintain the park. Did leave the volleyball court on this plan. The existing building, maybe it turns into Parks and Rec offices. Likely would be Parks and Rec offices once this was completely developed. Now, keep in mind, this does include, today, these houses are privately owned, except for two of them, one house here and one house here. So this is 3 spaces that are today, they're owned privately, so it would be acquiring those. So this was just an illustration of what it could.
We've acquired what at this
Two
point?
two houses.
And
Two
the
of them.
3 others that we would like to eventually acquire.
Yes.
Okay.
What was the repurposed shelter?
Finding some use for the existing stage, so where this position here today, about right here,
Just move it.
we moved repurpose it, use at least the columns and the roof. Maybe it's not a stage anymore, it's just a large shelter.
Cool.
And, all right, last one. So McKee and Pleasant Plains, that's the 28 acres of property that the town owns. So we updated, again, this was what we presented last year, took feedback from the board and also from this committee, and sort of reworked it. Idea was to make it a little more passive than some of the options that were shown. So we do see a lot more green, still leaving the all-inclusive playground, or all abilities playground. Those huge trees at the corner still anchor the site. And then just a multi-use field, very limited parking, shelters, restrooms, walking trails. These would, I guess, options to make these gravel or more asphalt or concrete. But not really represented, but still the idea to have bike trails here underneath the power lines. Just make use of that space. Expanding the pond, pier. Of course, stage, performance stage. But again, for the most part, just a passive representation of what could be in the site. And also, board asked us to look at what this could look like if a school, an elementary school, were placed on the site, in addition to a park. And so this footprint represents what an elementary school could look like. In my opinion, I do think it is I don't think it's to scale. We found other options for a 28-acre site, similar to this, where the actual building footprint was not this impact on the site.
Tell me again the acreage and then what would be the footage of the school?
So the entire site is roughly 28 acres.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Ideally, an elementary school is anywhere from 14 to 17 acres. That's what we found in the CMS handbook.
Yeah.
And so now, again, this is all just internal conversations, first of all. It's no real conversations with CMS. Haven't really had their input on what they want or what they would need as far as location of the next elementary school. This was, in my opinion, the exercise. Town board is certainly mending those relationships with CMS. When the time comes for need for an elementary school here in Matthews, we certainly would be pushing, in our opinion, to the top of the list of that property that a school could be built on. So this was just a representation.
What are the high voltage power lines in relation to this?
Right. So on the outside of this multi-use field.
Thanks.
And again, I do think this footprint could look a lot different. This was, what the landscape architect told me, this was a Nations Forward Elementary School. So this is an existing school site that they imposed onto the site.
Okay.
So, but again, we saw examples where it was not this big, on the site. So again, an exercise, what happens still TBD. But we did sort of talk through what this could look like. Partnering with the school and the playground. Turned into discussion about, well, what we need to parcel out, both of them to make that conversation or sense of security, I guess, between when people would say be able to access the park versus, accessing the park versus strictly restricting access during school hours. Parcel it out, what sort of barrier would need to, be in place, all those sort of.
I'm curious, is there a place anywhere, because I'm not aware of one, and obviously, and I've been through a lot of construction meetings as an assistant superintendent, where a park, a school, an elementary school is on a park site. Tell me where that's going on.
We pulled up, I cannot tell you where they were, I think one's in Pineville.
South Shore Middle School, those are public park.
Are they park facilities? I didn't.
I forgot where we were looking, but yeah, essentially now they didn't share a playground. So the park, and the sites we looked at, the playground and the parking for the park were, pretty much they were separate.
Okay.
They would almost have to be separate with security
Yeah, I
these
know,
days.
that's
and
what,
Right.
Visitors to school.
I see some problems that you really would have to work out.
Yeah.
And some of them, a lot of the, say, park use were athletic fields.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that, that's not that
There was
uncommon.
softball fields like off to the corner, school over here.
Yeah.
But now, there were, the other example that I saw where the footprint of the school was not this big. School here, it was another playground, parking, and some green. So like, this was like a park, and then this was the school, and the school had its own playground, and all the required parking and access into the site, and same bus parking lot and all that good stuff. So it was somewhat separated, but not physically.
Flip the school in the multi-use field, put the field in front of the school and slide the school back to the power lines. Could you do that?
Yeah, we sort of talked about, I even threw out with the landscape architect, can we flip this multi-use field over here? Again, this is all conceptual, but in that conversation, it was the building of essentially this moving up here. There will be a hard structure, asphalt driveway, bus lot underneath the power lines, and Duke is not, they don't allow things like that
Yeah.
underneath the power lines. Now, you could place parking, but to this extent underneath the power lines, I mean, they say, look, you can put it there, but we'll come and tear it up if we need to.
Yeah.
I see.
So, I mean, again, it was some good conversation, wasn't any ask of anything, but we talked about it. That was the bulk of the conversation related to Parks and Recreation. Well, the other part was a conversation about appetite to pursue a bond referendum in November. My interest in it was, of course, Personal Housing Park. But there are other needs, of course, around town that bump park being included. At least right now, there was appetite, desire to have a bond related to roads and related to sidewalks. But the park, at least in the conversation, was not one that, say, ranked high as those guys. So at this point, I do think we're gonna attempt to, say, piecemeal Personal Housing Park. That's gonna be my ask. So we've got money to build a dog park in this year's budget. I would love to, say, hold that, ask for another amount of money to complement that, and we improve the entrance to Personal Housing Park on the Matthews Hill Road side. Improve, when I say improve, I mean improve the landscaping, make it look like a park entrance, build a dog park, and we do have money, also include, we do have money to include a playground, and make that, and then that is Personal Housing Park today, possibly for the next 5 to 10 years.
1.0.
Yeah, and then when we do, or are able to build the park out, we at least got some bones in place to start from, to build that conceptual design that we have.
So there's no dedicated funding, because I mean, I'm sitting here looking at what we just talked about. We've got the lot in the key.
Right.
We've got the lot at Crown Point, the Tennyson lot, that's gonna be ours. We've got, you're talking about a Stumptown redevelopment, we got Perch to Halsey Park. We're sitting on a mess of, lots of land, we have no money to do anything with any of them. And, you know, unless the town and kind of comes up with a plan over time, it's never gonna get developed, because if it's gonna be year by year, Perch to Halsey is gonna suck all of the development money out of everything else, because it's gonna be an expense. So I'm just concerned that we're sitting on land, which is great, but, you know, how are we ever gonna turn this into parkland the way we're going without either a bond issue or some dedicated plan to fund year by year earmark for certain lots? And that's just my question. I mean, it's great having the land, you know, but if it's just sitting there for 20 years, it really is not doing us any good.
The council not filling of course, we have a new town council or a large number of new folks. They're not feeling any sense of urgency about parks.
I think there is. So we, I guess we'll get into it a little bit when we look at, I did finally make the map. It shows the undeveloped parcels.
That's great, thanks.
And so, sorry to not share, we also talked about where there are gaps in public recreation around Matthews. They did want to see how many, well, I guess where we sit and what we've shown as the Matthews standard, as well as what we expect in park acres per 1,000 people, miles of trail per 1,000 people, types of amenities per person, so to speak. So we did review that, and they were asking for it.
Good.
I think in this case, it was simply a prioritizer. Because, I mean, looking at, and I mean, I get it, thinking about roads and sidewalks, there were $10, $12 million worth of projects right there. So to have that, and again, this was conversation, 2 weeks ago. And I think we've got 3 to 4 months to make a decision on if they want to pursue a bond. It may find its way in there, I don't know, but as far as the conversation, or my interpretation of the conversation, Perch to Halsey Park was one that did not rank as high as roads and sidewalks.
But what I'm saying is, in terms of, if we're not gonna be a bond issue, with that, I don't know if they're addressing, but I really like to approach them with the idea of some kind of long-term plan to fund these things so that these areas can be developed. Otherwise, they're just gonna sit there. Perch to Halsey, we've been pretty much sitting on it for what, 4 or 5 years now? 10, yeah, and obviously that's a different example, because the cost of developing that is gonna be so much higher, but the point is, the money's not there, nothing can be done with it.
Yeah, and every time it sits empty and we own it, there could have been tax revenues collected from private individuals that owned it. So that's 10 years of tax revenue that is not collected on all that acres. I don't know what the
That's
what it was, but
that's actually a good point.
I mean, and
I mean,
thinking about it, like I work in,
That's an excellent point. I've never thought about that.
I work in mortgages, and I know like right now the bond has just got punched in the face like 1,000 times. Like, so I don't know what our rate of interest would be, but I know the government's 10-year treasury is under 1%. So I don't think from a community standpoint, borrowing money is really a good idea, but if you're ever gonna do it, why not do it while rates are stupidly low? Instead of what, a couple of years from now when things change and recover, or whatever this fear with the coronavirus is causing a flight to bonds to that security. If we're gonna make, if we're losing revenue, let's do something or get rid of it. I mean, I definitely don't want to get rid of it. But like, if it was my, if Matthews was my town and I could do what I want, you've got to make your assets work for you and just sit in there in the back pocket. I know it's appreciating, but if you're not going to, if the goal is not to sell it, you're losing tax revenue, and year over year, especially with the labor shortage, the cost of development is going to escalate. Mm-hmm. Now that the housing market is back, you're competing with the people who would build a park now have to build a condo. So who's going to pay them more? The town of Matthews or the private investor is going to flip their money and get out. Mm-hmm. That's kind of unfortunate. The reality we're in at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I do think, I'll say hopefully, that this incremental approach to the Perch to Halsey Park.
Yeah, stop the dog park.
And the rest will fall into place.
That's right. So, I mean, honestly, what you just sort of laid out is sort of what hopefully wins, when I have our budget discussion. So we got 100 grand to build a dog park. If we can make that 150 next year, or this year, lump it with that, we make those.
I understand what you're saying, but I'm saying, what I would be looking for from town council is some kind of vision of a plan of how are we going to develop this over a certain period of time, as opposed to every year
Going back.
looking at it and saying, what are we going to do this year? Because it doesn't really get us, it doesn't help us really move down the road, because we're just piecemealing everything.
I mean, even if we have to change, I see Ali's point, even if you have to change it later, at least have a 5-year vision plan for where we hope we're going in terms of developing parks, as
Or
opposed
some
to
kind of annual
running back
line
every
for
year.
Park development, and, we know every year it'll be this or something, and then the money can be earmarked for various parks, as opposed to every year going back and saying, we've got this, we want to do this, because, Percival Halsey, great, put a dog park in there, but if we develop Percival Halsey for the next 10, 15 years, that means that there's probably not going to be any money to deal with McKee or the Crown Point or Stumptown or anything else. Or if we take the money for that, it means that, so I'm just kind of a vision or, some kind of at least, and obviously, once again, they're not locked in because budget year by year, but I would just want to ask them, guys, can we consider, some kind of general plan on how we're going to do this?
I'm with, I'd love to build it out in the next 3 years, just
But
have.
it's not going to happen, but.
And I mean, that's my interpretation of the conversation, and that's, this year.
Yeah, I understand year by year, but all I'm saying is maybe if we can get them to prioritize or respect it, it's gonna make it much easier going forward.
So, I mean, that was the gist of the parks related conversation. So, any other questions about the planning conference? So, updates, Heritage Trail. If you haven't seen it yet, it's, or seen the construction yet. Of course, like I mentioned before, rain sort of slowing us down, or wetness really. It'll rain, one day, and drizzle the next day. It takes 2 days to dry the dirt out. But we are making progress. We've moved, cleared the trail almost all the way to John Street. And so you can see it. You can see it. We haven't laid any asphalt yet, but we're getting there, at least on the piece behind Town Hall. We're the closest there. Couple more days of dry weather, which I think is going to rain tomorrow. But we're getting there. Stevens Street Nature Preserve. As we said in the meeting, we did remove the sign bike routes. Made presentations to the board that following Monday, and it was just an attempt to solicit feedback. I didn't get a lot of feedback. No one from Windrow showed up at the meeting to speak.
I think they were pretty happy when they left.
Yeah, and I got email, even with, what we said at the meeting, the advisory meeting last month. I did still expect a few to come and either speak, either talk about what the change was, or I think there was a few that still wanted to address the pedestrian bridge that was connecting the undeveloped piece to the neighborhood. But I didn't hear anything about it. Not a whole lot of feedback from the board. I think they received the information. Honestly, without the neighborhood sign routes, not a lot of controversy. I think we all understand it was a huge project, a lot of it tied to the road projects, the side paths. So, and again, what it does, adopting it as part of a plan, puts us in line to get those dollars from NCDOT when those road projects, begin to happen. So we do expect, it will be back on the agenda in 2 weeks from this past Monday. This time will be an attempt for adoption. So we'll see what happens with that. I do, like I said, not a lot of feedback, not a lot of conversation about it, so I do expect it. And if you want, I can go ahead and talk about it here, what we talked about last month with undeveloped spaces.
Yeah, I was gonna ask him about all this, if we want to cover that now, that's great. We were talking about the voice, right? We were trying to figure it out.
So, I did, I should have left them up there. I deleted where the circles were that showed the voids of public recreation amenities. So essentially what we found was that we met, as far as the Matthews standard in parks, acreage and quantity of parks and Matthews. We met the Matthews standard for mini parks and community parks and regional parks. Where we fell short was neighborhood parks. And those are the 7 to 10 acre parks. And the spaces, spatially, where we were showing a gap is, one is here, and let me back, there were 5 sites that we felt should represent that gap, or should be added to meet the need of, as far as public recreation activities. Those sites were here, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I know that was my little marker here, but those were sort of the gaps in recreation Matthews. Now, looking at what is undeveloped, public acres that are undeveloped, there was only these 4 spaces. And that's a combination of City of Charlotte, Town of Matthews, and Mecklenburg County parcels. This piece of Long Keziah, one that Howard sort of talked through, is connected to the Urbis Creek Greenway that's underway now. This space. This little sliver of property here is literally a corner. I showed it up there because it is town property, but it is less than an acre, maybe close to a half an acre, right here.
Is that Samuel Road going through both of them?
Yes, so it's Samuel, and it's adjacent to that, what is it right there?
So just north of Independence there is what we're looking at.
Right, so that goes from that shopping center back up to it.
Right behind the movie theater, like back and left, behind the movie theater, if you're looking at it.
Yeah. So past where this is Rice Road here, so past this is the light at Northeast Parkway, past Rice Road, right up here on the left. I mean, you drive by it, it's just a wooded, site.
Like up by the movie theater kind of?
Behind
Yeah,
it.
it's like where the hill, and you got those
Okay,
pine
now,
trees.
yeah, now I know what you're talking
A
about.
big berm.
Yeah, it is a burn tree.
Yeah.
So I mean, what you build on that, I'm not sure what. This is Mecklenburg County property, right here, adjacent to CPCC. I mean, it's a rectangular piece. It's wooded and it's just open. I've not really heard plans for what it could be. Like I said, adjacent, I want to say it's tennis courts right here, CPCC courts.
Where's the, come on, I was thinking it's the indoor basketball and the baseball and football, that's in Indian Trail, right?
Carolina Court.
Yes,
Yeah, that's gonna be true.
that's a little further this way, right?
Right.
It's like,
And this is some City of Charlotte property. Again, just undeveloped. This was the property that I think I mentioned a couple months ago. Our police and fire department were talking with Mecklenburg or Charlotte and City of Charlotte Fire, maybe a joint training center on this site. I'm not sure what traction that's got, but this is the space that was sort of talked about in that context. So you see, it's not a whole lot of publicly owned land that is not already developed in Matthews. And if you're looking at where we have the gaps, you see the road names already written in. All the spaces that we're talking about, say, by our, what we label as our standard of having a need for public recreation, everything's built out. The neighborhoods are already there. It will be tough to install a park in some of these spaces. So it is just going to be that work to figure out how to fill those gaps. I guess, was there anything you wanted to talk about with the publicly owned properties?
What are the yellow lots? What's the key on that? I can't remember.
This is City of Charlotte, so these goldy, green.
Yeah, but you've got yellow. Where's it?
Maybe it's my eyes.
Lime green.
Lime, sorry.
Lime green.
How is it?
I got some color issues, guys.
So these are private facilities, so this is the YMCA, it's Mara, it's Christ Covenant, I guess some football field, soccer, baseball complex. And the blue is school property, green is county, purple is the town. Yeah. So, yeah. This is the map. Any questions about it? All right. All right, so that was all that I had to share about those. And also, I did have a conversation with planning about Rosewood Cemetery.
You're one step ahead of me.
And the instruction I got was to wait until the buildings are up. So they haven't done work on that part of the site. They're still trying to get the structure.
And that's another area we're gonna need funding for at some point to do something with. And not as much, it's only 3 acres, so it's not gonna be very expensive, but, it's gonna need some money too.
Maybe some work from the town in that space, but they, as part of their development, it's in the construction notes or the planning notes, that they're gonna create that fencing, clean it up, and make it accessible.
My question is, why can't we as a town apply for ASC funding? It's a heritage site historically. Just a thought, might be something to try and do, a project grant or something else to clean it up or put some signage or something out there. That's in their wheelhouse, science, education, or, I'm just thinking.
Yeah, I don't think anything related to signage is part of it, so yeah, that's an idea. To pursue some sort of funding to create something out there.
Because that figure, given the way things are going, that's probably gonna be the absolute last thing that gets funded, Just a thought, that it might be, they have ongoing grants, but they also have project grants. If we can come up with something,
When's their timeline to start working on anything? Do we have any idea? Do they have any construction timeline in terms of?
Well,
It took them forever, 2 years to even get started on the site, so I'm just curious, are we talking about, I don't know, 10 years from now?
so, honestly, as far as the town and Carlo and planning department, I think their inspection, their frequency of inspection was really related to the clearing. As far as I know, they don't share their construction schedule with us. We just ensure that they abided by what was in the plan notes.
We have little or no control over, it really could drag on for an awful long time, because it dragged on for a long time before they ever started even breaking ground. So.
Yeah, it's a private project. Really, let's make sure they comply with what was in the notes. I want to be in the Rosewood Cemetery, and we all know about the trees. So what's, their mitigation for the tree removal, making sure that happens. So I think that was the extent of.
And that goes back to the state, is
That
that
was an
right?
accident.
The trees, does that go back to the state or the county or?
comes back to us.
The fines go to CMS.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Okay.
So we don't get that money. Yeah, that was
Do we know anything going on with the old Family Dollar shop yet, or do we need someone moving in there, taking it over? It's gonna sit empty for a while, or?
there is activity back there. I guess the distribution piece of it is still in operation. But thinking about the, I guess, big plan for that area, planning department, Jay Camp was, one of his to-dos was to take the next step to create a small area plan, for that. Maybe that, see, I'm gonna misspeak here trying to talk planning and zoning, but I do think it may be rezoned. Whatever happens to that space, they want to create something, some plan that shows everything from, I guess, the Matthews border, that City Galleria, to where John Street changes to Monroe. So they're going to create something that's very specific to that area and show what it's going to look like, or what it should look like.
Cool.
Right, I got a couple of questions.
Waverly comes to Matthews.
We talked about
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yes.
Or Ray Farms.
Moved on that.
Matherly's.
Gone back, I think it was in a dogwood-based design for that, the crosswalks over there by the Mac.
Yes, so Melissa reached back out to that, and I say this was our conversation, she planned to, or she may have, reached back out to the artists and shared what we thought were. Now, so with that, we were asking the artists to sort of take those comments and then bring an actual design back. So what we saw was simply there, maybe something they created, whatever, but I guess they're not gonna tweak what you saw last month. They're gonna create something.
Yeah, I just didn't know where we were with it, whether she's working on it, or we're not even up to that stage yet.
I hate to say we're not, and we are. I'm not sure.
I don't know. Okay, fair enough.
But we did, Melissa and I did talk, and that was the task, to share what the comments were with the artists, and I guess get a timeline when they're gonna present something, or produce something, and we'll bring it back to the board.
We'd also approved some sewer art for the Greenway. Has that been done, or where are we with
I'll
the?
say it has not been done. I'm 99% sure it's not.
I haven't been out there in a while, so.
Yeah,
That's the
but
high school students doing that.
it is. But Scott did reach back out to the students and tell them that their design was approved by the committee. So, yeah, I'm not sure what sort of timeline they're on. I'm gonna say likely push past March, maybe let it warm up a little bit, and then go ahead and meet.
That's good.
And also, I'll share the board, share some comments to me about sewer pipe art. And it was something that we sort of internally were talking about. Maybe it's time to, say, do an inventory, looking at the ones that are there, maybe need to be redone, maybe some pressure washing. If the pressure washing removes the paint, then, maybe that one becomes like completely new. But it is balancing what's available right now. So there are manhole covers and those raised manhole covers that are just bare, either painted black or just the concrete. Balancing repainting ones that needed, or adding some that are bare, empty right now. Because the other part is we just don't have the number of artists coming out. So Scott, I want to say end of March, same deal. Is going to rely on call for artists for the Greenway sewer pipe art. Do that. In addition to the studio that's going to do it.
Yeah, and wall poems, we're still just in limbo on the ASC grant and with the poem as to what to do with it.
Yeah, we're going to find what that's about. Right now, Melissa's also putting a lot of energy into finding an artist to create something to represent, call it old Matthews. And I say old Matthews meaning he's looking at old photos, looking at those things that say are represented in the town's vision statement. Something. She's putting a lot of her energy into finding an artist to create that. In our opinion, something like that would be a good sell for where we initially had the wall.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's what's gonna win over there.
Right, we still have the wall poem and some ASC funding, we have no place to put that.
They've got half of they've got our deposit.
Okay.
And, well, they're refunding about half of it, I guess. So we've invested in the wall poem, so we just gotta find some way to finish the painting.
Good luck.
I volunteer my house.
Yeah,
It's close, it's downtown adjacent.
it's going,
You got a nice blank wall on one side
It's
of
all brick, it's a brick ranch house.
I have full confidence we'll have something, either wall poem or that space, within the next year. I have full confidence. One of them is gonna happen. Wall poem or that space.
it. Okay, anybody else have any questions for Corey? Any of this stuff?
The multi-sided sculpture, was that reinstalled in Square Lake Park? I didn't see it when I was there last week.
The Rumble.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that one.
Uh,
I won't say Rumba de Hydra, but that's not right.
Yeah, Rumble never heat.
Oh.
Yeah, it is.
Bravo code decorate. There's more syllables.
It didn't feel hard enough. I think it's way too easy to say. That's why I don't think it was right. It was going to be quick, like when you come into the park.
Code, decado.
The sculpture that took a little cruise.
Walked off.
So I guess the multi-sided, multi-step question. So was the new one installed, and was the one that was already there that was vandalized, was that one unvandalized? Or restored back to its proper?
It wasn't vandalized, was it? Wasn't it?
I didn't think it was vandalized.
No, they threw blue paint on it.
They don't paint on it.
And then they cut an initial into it.
And so the new one is not installed. They made a couple of attempts to remove the paint from the replacement.
Mhm.
He did find that, honestly, what they were using to remove the vandalism paint was removing the actual art.
Yeah, I see.
And so they stopped. He told me a couple of different other processes they're gonna attempt, but short answer is no, it's not fixed yet. And the other one is not installed yet.
No, the new one is technically the old one.
Correct.
They got stolen or whatever, but the other one, the pad got put in. And that's why we can't put the old one back, because the new pad's put in and the new one's there on the greenway.
I mean, what I'm talking about. So when I said the new one, yeah, the new one was vandalized.
Again, a second one got vandalized?
Yeah, so the first one got
The first one
kicked
got
off.
stolen. We put up the replacement got.
Oh, okay, I didn't realize that the replacement had been vandalized.
Did I not show you that picture last time in January?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't here in January, that's fine.
Someone really doesn't like geometry.
Yeah, some kid
Yeah, but
fell
class.
math in high school.
They're upset they can't pronounce it.
That's what it is.
So we took that one away, the second one.
Yeah, so the found one, the found one, which is the old one, is waiting to be reinstalled, and they're gonna. The idea is to put it. You know, when you get to the bottom to the park and you have those swing sets. So there's an area with two trees, and from my understanding, the idea was to put it between those two trees, so it's far enough away from the kids to play on and where people can see it. So hopefully, if someone else tries to vandalize it, they will get caught.
But the second one that got vandalized, did we take it up?
No.
They just toss paint on it.
Yeah, there's paint. So actually, so we're kind of funny story, but so Mecklenburg County, when I say bollards, you guys know what I'm talking about? Things we put on the greenway to keep cars from driving down. So we were searching different companies to buy these bollards. We find they're charging us whatever, $600, $800 per individual piece.
Yeah.
And so it finally became a conversation with Mecklenburg County, like, what are you guys doing? And of course, they know people. They aren't buying them from the companies that actually build them. It's this random can't say random, they've been in business for decades, but just a metal shop. Apparently, they went to the shop and said, look, I need this. Can you build me this? So this metal shop has been building theirs for like 10 years. Got them to build one for us, and that turned into, hey, look, I got another metal question. So now we're good friends with these guys, that built us these awesome ballers for a very reasonable price. And they gave us some ideas about how we want to either get the paint off, or it could turn into, hey, look, I'm gonna bring this to your shop. Can you make it look like this?
that's
Look
good.
like this again. So that was pretty awesome to run into those guys. Save some money and we have some ideas. Cool. How to make it look good again.
Good. Okay, anybody else have any questions for Corey? I think that pretty much covered old business. Any other old business anybody wants to talk about? Anything new?
Coronavirus.
Would you like some?
What is the Park and Rec department doing to fight coronavirus today?
Yeah, I haven't got an email from those guys, like I had from Target.
Closing all our parks and all our.
Yeah. As,
Blue algae's old news. It's all about the coronavirus.
Well, since there is no coronavirus in Mecklenburg County yet, is there?
People are being tested, but not confirmed.
Matthews Parks and Rec sanitizer.
The manager did share, yeah, he told us that no trips to Europe on the town dime.
Can't go back
You've
to
been
France.
playing a lot of European
Same
trips,
as-
weren't you?
So, yeah, we canceled those plans.
I guess you can't go to Italy either, huh?
No, it's,
Wuhan trip, it's just.
no, it's a way to see it, so.
He's not saying no Chinese food. That's good.
He didn't say that.
I'm curious, what, just like as an event person, what is y'all's like personal opinion on still having events outdoors, beach fests, food truck Friday, things like that, versus indoors, like lunch with the Easter Bunny down in the community room, photos of the Easter Bunny and things like that coming up here in the next month. We have the indoor concert on Friday. I just want to know, like, the general public's opinion versus what we're thinking.
Well, first of all, everybody is, the general impression I'm getting is people are just running scared right now.
Freaking out.
And that given a week or two, things will calm down some. But I think outside activities are certainly going to be more palatable than indoor activities. Because if you're worried about the spread of the disease indoors, like a petri dish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to have some effect, obviously, on, it's going to have some effect on your attendance, but I don't think it's going to kill your events. People are going to realize that, going outside is not going to kill me.
Yeah.
Well, people are still going to church. I don't see
Yeah.
our church attendance going down that much, and we're part of a big church, so.
About these events, if you put in additional hand washing stations, then you just
Yeah.
make that known, and that may also help some.
Yeah.
That's a very great.
I just
Even though they probably won't get used, it's just the reassurance of knowing that they're there.
got an email from UNCC, all their classes are now online for the rest of the year.
Wow,
So,
that's insanity.
I know, so.
That happened to another school in Pennsylvania or Philadelphia.
Duke
somewhere.
University's doing it too.
Early.
They said don't come
Well,
back
see,
either.
got a lot of research trying apart right now.
Earlier today.
Got 6 of the research trying apart.
They were waiting for the
Yeah.
board of directors to say,
That's scary.
They do it, yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
But
Oh, what do you do about the pork?
we should have virtual park, virtual beach fest.
I know.
I would say though, in any of your communication and publication type stuff, reiterate if you don't feel well, stay
Yeah.
home.
Worth it.
For your safety as well as the, other
Yeah.
people.
And so, I know at Food Truck Friday, we're gonna have hand washing stations, we'll have the bathrooms. We're gonna encourage the food trucks to bring hand sanitizer if they can find any, to put like on their stations at their trucks. I mean, that's like really about all you can do besides hand out masks and gloves. So, and I know, it's just interesting to hear like different people's opinions on it, because I think if you're outside, you're fine, but.
Just don't count on Plantation Estates.
That's right. Definitely not count on plantation stuff.
All right, anybody else have anything? Okay, in that case, thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Sure.